Hey there, everyone. I am your host, Eric Mueller, and welcome back to The Eric Mueller Show, a podcast where we explore what makes any successful person's inner clock tick. Today on the show, we'll be chatting with an inspirational female entrepreneur. Janan Sarwar has over 15 years of experience in the pharmacy world. She's currently the Senior Director of the Print and Digital Book Publishing Department at the American Pharmacists Association. She's also a medical writer, speaker, and pharmacy career coach. After graduating from the University of North Carolina with a doctorate in pharmacy, she then pursued a fellowship in educational technology, research, and development. Janan has served as an editor of over 25 textbooks and innovative digital publishing projects. She's passionate about creating engaging resources for healthcare providers and patients that help improve medication use and access to care for all populations. In her positions, she advocates for empowering women and those from culturally, linguistically, and racially diverse backgrounds. She believes in progress over perfection, keeping things simple with minimalism, and the concept of being fearless. Throughout her life journey, she has also discovered that a failure to plan means planning to fail. Let's head on over to the interview. All right, welcome back to the Eric Mueller Show, a podcast where we explore what makes any successful person's inner clock keep driven towards success. Today on the show, we have another pharmacist. We have Janan Sarwar. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on here. I really am excited to dive into what makes your inner clock tick towards success and really kind of tease out how you've taken a more non-traditional route with your pharmacy career, namely doing some freelance medical writing for GoodRx, currently coaching for the Happy PharmD, a website that a lot of pharmacists you look up to as far as how to create a career that feels fulfilled for them, doing some publishing work for APHA. So, Janan, how did you go about pursuing those opportunities? Do you have any tips for other people that are yearning to take more of that non-traditional career path?
Absolutely. My biggest tip is to say, take risks. Put yourself out there. I was ready in every one of these examples to hear a no. But it's really more surprising that the more I kind of explained some of the unique skills I had for each of these things that you just described, medical writing or coaching and publishing, it was really interesting to hear whether it was during an interview or someone even saying, hey, Janan, have you considered this? And talking and sharing what made me unique and stand out. That's what I really think contributed to my success to get me in these positions. Find things that you're passionate about, do it. So for me, prior to pharmacy school and during pharmacy school, I did photography, completely unrelated to pharmacy, but it taught me a lot of skills that I still use today, to the point that, I used photography as a hobby, and I learned about it, learned to network with people, and had a small photography business. Used the money that I earned literally to reinvest in myself to get more gear and things like that, which was interesting. And it was from there that I became kind of the webmaster, the photographer of all these different organizations within pharmacy school. By doing that, I had this experience in working with the internet, and that kind of led into what I did a fellowship after pharmacy school, very non-traditional, and I just kind of took a leap, and it was in educational technology. And kind of what I did there led to the position I got at APHA, where for the past 7 years, my full-time job has been to direct the content and the development of materials, whether it's print books, online resources, and everything for student pharmacists and pharmacists. And it helps that I'm a pharmacist myself. How this kind of went on to freelance writing and coaching is that I was able to say, hey, I've done so much editing along the way in my publishing career. I should be a writer too. And that's how I got that position. And coaching well, I kind of know a lot of people in this pharmacy space and world, and I love cheering people on. I'm motivated by that. It's part of what gets me up in the morning. So that's how I got that. So my biggest advice is, if you can hear from my story and my passion, is I just kind of tried different things, put myself out there and stood out. You never know what opportunity that you can take that can give you skills that you can transfer later, and skills that will help you get the next position you didn't even imagine.
Yeah, and in preparation for the interview, you mentioned that you embrace the getting things done philosophy. Would you care to elaborate on that and its impact it's had on your life and career thus far?
Yeah. So, I don't know if you've heard of GTD for short, getting things done. It's really simply stated, it's just a productivity system. And it's my personal productivity system when it comes to keeping track of what I have to do for work, for home, for all the extra things. As I mentioned, I'm up to a lot, right? And, you have to keep track of everything. It's a time management system, essentially stating that, if something's on your mind, it can fill your mind. We've kind of normalized, I'm sure, we all of us, anyone listening, I'm sure has a calendar, and people book times on their calendars, and, they go by their calendar. Okay, I have this thing to do and that. And that's normal to be able to turn and look at your calendar to say, I don't have to remember that at, 11 o'clock next Thursday, I have this appointment. Your calendar does that for you. GTD takes that same idea of, okay, there are all these things, whether it's in the course of a day or in your life, whether it's, hey, I've got to put laundry from the washing machine to the dryer, to I have to cook something specific for a meal, or I have to get this thing done for work. GTD is all about removing all of these things that are on our mind and putting it in a system so that you are able to truly get things done in an effective way. Its impact on my life and career is that I have been able to balance my home, my work. I'm not perfect, but, although I'm constantly bombarded with thoughts and I agree to do so many things, as we all do, I have a system that helps make sure I'm following through and following up on things. And that's what GTD means for me.
Are you a big fan of checking things off of lists? I know that's something I really like. Even if there's something that I have already done, if I have a list of things that I need to do for the day, I'll even add that onto my list just so I can check it off. Just feels good.
Yes, I love it. And, you can do that with GTD. There are different systems. I've more recently, for the past few years, have been using an online site called Todoist. It's unaffiliated with the GTD thing, but
Sure.
it's ways to make multiple to-do lists that is electronic. And, what I like about it, I like the physical checking off as well, like on a regular notebook, I can relate. But even on that check mark, like that ding, ding, I've checked it off, because this is human nature as well. And a little thing I do talk about in coaching, when I coach people as a pharmacy career coach, we get dopamine. We have this joy when we have checked off something from our list. It's a real phenomenon. So, as you accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. So to your point, Eric, of even if you've already done it, going back and checking it off, it makes you feel good. It's a real feeling. And, I totally can relate to you on that. So yeah, if you like checklists, look into GTD.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to look up that website as well. I think that, like you said about the calendar, I mean, even with just this podcast, using something like Calendly has helped take so much off of just back and forth emails to schedule things. And I can really start to get things done more efficiently that way.
Absolutely. Embrace technology when it can, for sure.
That's right. And so in the operation of that photography business that you had, based on the timeline, it looked like, did you start that while you were attending the University of Tennessee?
That's correct. Yeah. So I was a UT volunteer in Knoxville, Tennessee. And that's one of those times. I was studying biochemistry. Earlier than that, I had made a lot of friends. I thought I was going to be an engineer. My father is an engineer, and he's a professor. And so I met people in those engineering classes I initially took that really loved how things worked, and photography, for example. And so those friends kind of got me into it, and then some other friends that I had. And so we joined some photography clubs. And, it was really neat. There were experts in Knoxville that would come, and you could actually rent really expensive equipment from the library of the university, Canon cameras and Nikon and lenses and, you name it. And yeah, that's when it all started, back in undergrad. And I mean, I kind of think back and reflect on those moments. It's such a great time when you're exploring a new hobby, which I continue to love to do now that I have young children of my own. That experience of trying something new, learning and doing it in a group setting where you're working with others, so invigorating. I love that group mentality. And one of the things I just reflected on, because you asked, thinking about Knoxville, is that we met some expert photographers from that area through the club, being in that that photography, that interest group. And, it's such another feeling of like being able to be a novice and work with an expert, that is an expert in their craft. Really inspiring, and motivating. And again, thanks for actually jogging that memory back for me for Knoxville.
Yeah, absolutely. It just inspired me to read that and see, how you take a passion and just start to work on it, start to make progress and get things done with that. And it seems like it directly ties in with how you started with the American Pharmacists Association. Like you mentioned, the content development, being the associate director there. I would say that, when you applied for that position, and I could be wrong, but it would seem to me that your application would have jumped off the page to me if I was looking at it, seeing that you've already had this business running, what would be a content business. Do you think that helped you in that way to get that position to start off with APHA?
That definitely helped. What also helped, I think, in my cover letter or when it came to the interview, was just to be able to illustrate that what I would be doing in that position, in that new position. This is, again, getting in my career coach mentality, what I try to help people do, but really did work for me, is I put myself in the lens of, this is what I would bring to your organization from my experience, and this is what I've done. So, I was able to say in my interview, I remember speaking to who's now my mentor, but my previous boss, what I would be able to do at APHA is literally an extension of what I've done on a different scale.
Yeah.
In my past. And yes, and I think that it's very powerful to be able to either illustrate that on your resume, in your cover letter, or be able to speak to, hey, I've done this. This is what I can do. Here's what I can add. Here are some other unique things I've done and some ideas I have for you based on what I see that you're doing, if you're open to it. That has been in every position I've had and everyone I talk to, when even now, when I'm not even looking for anything new, I'm trying to not add anything more. There's a power of saying no, right? Because for everything you say yes to, you probably have to say no to something else, because there are only so many hours of the day. But what I've learned is that you as an individual can always offer something, whether it's coming, when we talk about the word networking or, connecting with others. It's really interesting when you can provide your perspective. And then, for me now, it's more of like, I'm sharing these ideas and I'm kind of walking away like, hey, this is something cool you might want to consider. I'm not the person to do it, but, have you thought about this? It's a great skill to hone as well. I think that will help you if we go back to talking about standing out in an application or, when it comes to starting new things, being an entrepreneur. Ways to stand out, ways to be noticed is the fact that you're open, you're giving, and you have innovation. That's what innovation is. That's what I, attribute to a little bit of what got me to where I am today too.
Yeah, let's dive a little deeper into coaching. And so it seems that coaching is a big aspect of your life. I mean, you're a career coach for the Happy PharmD right now, but you've mentioned you have a business coach, you have a health coach, you're a mentor to others in your field. Your mom is a therapist, and she's been a role model for you in terms of being a strong proponent of mental health. So what is the meaning of coaching to you? What, in your opinion, why does everyone need to have a coach in their lives?
This coaching is like a secret. I didn't even know myself. And it's unlocked so many things. Coaching is development. It's when someone experienced, is cheering you on. They have this specific training. So why do I have a varied one? Why do I have someone for health? Why did I have someone for business? Why am I now helping people with careers? It's, kind of helping someone realize this potential they have within themselves, helping them unlock that person's potential to maximize and be the best version of themselves. That's what I think coaching is. So for me, we talked about this earlier, there are only so many hours of the day. So
Right.
I want someone who can guide me without telling me exactly what to do. Maybe I already know the steps that I need to take, but I can't do that extra mental load of, am I taking the steps in the right order? Am I thinking too much internally? Am I thinking through the things I should think about? Am I reflecting on the right things? So kind of helping, whether when it's coming to me, when someone is coaching me, my health coach, I meet with him weekly. We talk about me as a whole, as an individual, all the different aspects that make me for my health, whether it's spiritually, sleep, and stress, what I'm eating, am I getting my exercise, all of those things, right? It's a whole component of things that make me taking that dedicated time to have that reflection through the coaching gets me motivated, and I have that accountability. That's why I have a health coach. With a business coach, you could say the same thing, that accountability of, here is what, when you're trying to build a business, it's not A to Z. There are many steps, right? You've spoken to entrepreneurs on your podcast before. There are many steps, many things you have to think about when it comes to hiring, or, what to do, who to turn to, a lot of things to think about, and just kind of helping unlock that potential, decide what it is that person needs to do, and kind of reflect and make sure the correct paths are taken and you're not overthinking things. I think that's the purpose. And I love it. I love doing that. And I've really found a lot of joy personally being a coach while being coached.
Yeah, and you probably find that you can't do it alone, or you really shouldn't try to do it alone. You need someone
No.
there to show you and mentor you. And you might hear the term thrown around, those of you listening, a self-made man or woman. And I think in the conversations I've had with people on the show thus far, you can really see how that is just not a thing even. I mean, everyone has had a mentor at some point in their life. And I think you touched on it perfectly there, Janan, in terms of why you should have a coach and how you can just use that person to reach your full potential. And I want to ask you, building off of that full potential, like what would you define that as for someone, or what is your true definition of what would make someone be the most successful that they could be?
That's a perfect question. And, I think about that all the time. What is success? Is success defined on someone's ability to, accomplish something? Is it earning a certain amount of money? Is it getting a certain position? Is it, what is it? And I think the true answer to that, because as I've been reflecting on it, is it depends on that person. Everyone, has their different limit or their different goal for success. I know people that have, colleagues of mine, whether they're pharmacists or others, that, they feel successful. They're fine with the status quo. Their success is not measured by what next promotion they're going to get. Whereas there's others that are extremely driven and they're hoping to get this next whether it's a promotion or an award or, the next new challenge. So, you can kind of hear my description is that success is defined, I would say, by the individual. For me, you can also say that you can define it on a day-to-day basis, or, so for me, I can say at the end of today, I could look at how did today go? Was today successful? Did what I set out for me, my definition of success is if I am hoping to get something done, whether, if you think back to my GTD or because I'm balancing a lot, is it even just getting the things done? With COVID-19, I mentioned I have kids. Other mothers may say success today was just my children are alive, we're all fed, we're well, right? So success also fluctuates depending on the situation, right? But when it comes to career, and that's the whole point of success and potential when it comes to coaching. It also depends on the type of coaching. And that's why I kind of described that there are different forms of coaching. What again, if I speak about health coaching for a minute, I will define success that I had a successful, I have reached my goals with health coaching if I have reached what I was trying to accomplish. And so, for me, I will be honest to say that I don't always make it a priority in my GTD list of things to do to work out. So my goal of why I hired a career coach was, can I find this motivation or accountability person, coach, to inspire me to work out on, whether it's a daily basis or X number of times a week. That's my definition of success if that week I did accomplish that goal. Whereas there are some other abstract things. So there's subjective goals, there are objective goals. But yeah, I know that's a loaded answer, but I think to suffice it to say, I think success can mean a lot of things, and it's a good thing to reflect on, for sure.
Yeah, no, Janan, that's a great answer. I think that it really inspires to think about the fact that success could be changing on a day-to-day basis. I could be successful one day simply because I made my bed in the morning, and I could be successful the next day because I got promoted.
Right.
It can be subjective, and it should make people listening think that just don't get discouraged. I mean, you got to take these small steps to progress. And as you look at Janan's career, I mean, she didn't start off doing all the things she's doing in one day. It was a slow process, and some were, I'm sure, faster than others for you. But
yeah.
So Janan, now that we know what success is and how it can be a variety of different things, I really want to explain to you what my purpose was in starting this podcast. So the backbone of the show is to explore what makes any successful person's inner clock tick. So a variety of people can have different definitions of what success is, but what is the one single driving force for you that keeps your inner clock ticking towards that success, whatever it might be?
My answer to that is I love the challenge, and the driving motivation is to be, we said, having that potential. I believe we all have the potential to make our habits the best that they can be, and we can always improve. So trying to improve myself in every aspect that I can, that's what drives me. If you hear really quickly to share that habits are our automatic behaviors, right? And I don't know if you knew this, but about half of what we do every day is based on what our habit is. And people have good and bad habits, and you can change them. And so that's my goal. That's what drives me. How do I create efficient, effective, successful habits and have a commitment to action to continue to take me to what I define as success?
So Janan, we know that success, the definition of that term, can vary for different people. There's certain good habits that can progress you towards your goals, and there's bad habits that can prevent you from reaching those goals. Do you have any tips for the audience members listening who want to build more good habits and facilitate that success? And also on the converse side of that, to help break some of those bad habits that they might have?
Absolutely. I think the best thing to do is look at identifying what habits that you want to gain in yourself. I shared that statement earlier. I am the person who is blank. So again, whether maybe we can talk about my example. I'm the person who works out every day. So that's the example. The quick steps of the tactics of how to get there. Start small. Make what your habit that you're trying to get, make it really easy. Make it obvious. Make your habit attractive. Make it, when you do it, you find satisfaction. And when you try to create that habit, make it so it's easy to succeed. So, the really easy thing to think about is that if someone's goal is to start, they've never, for me, I've never weightlifted a lot of weight. I can't start and say my habit or the next thing I'm going to do is lift 500 pounds. That's hard to do. So you heard me that, like, make it easy. So make it so that you can actually accomplish it. Once you start small, you build up to that. And so that's the way to kind of overall build a good habit. And the opposite of making, to get rid of a bad habit is to do the inverse. Make it really hard to do that bad habit. Make your bad habit unattractive, unsatisfying. Make it so that it's not obvious for you to choose the option of the bad habit. So maybe some people are like, oh, junk food. I'm really, it's a bad habit that I will binge on junk food at the end of the day. Well, the way to do it is make that junk food not as easy to attain. Don't make it attractive. All those things that you can do. And a great book that I would like to recommend for your guests is Atomic Habits. It's by James Clear, and it's a very good book to help you build good habits and eliminate bad habits.
Yeah, it's a great book recommendation. And that's actually, Janan, that's on my list to read. I haven't read that one yet, surprisingly, but I know I've had colleagues and friends recommend it and say they've really enjoyed it. So appreciate you mentioning that. Definitely going to be on my to-read list. And it just got me thinking, and for those of you audience members who are maybe new to the show, if this is your first time listening or if you've listened for a little while, we're on episode 13 here. But episode 4 talked about setting goals and tracking progress. And if you listen to that one, you will have heard that Janan touched on some similar themes that I hit in that. And really, it boils down to just that small daily win that you can give yourself in the beginning, I think is really helpful, at least for me.
Yes.
It ties in well.
Yes, for sure.
So another piece that I'm interested in. So you said that you're a mother. You have 3 children. Is that correct?
Yes, 3 little girls.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a busy household.
Yeah, it makes me think of work-life balance. So, you can build these good habits and try to break these bad habits, but how do you know when you're maybe taking on too much? Or if like you said earlier, there's a limited amount of time in the day. I certainly don't want to become really successful in my career and day job, so to speak, and then lose track of, my loved ones and family and friends. So how do we search for that work-life balance, or how do you do that being a mother of 3?
Yes. So, my greatest accomplishment or achievement is my family. I really take pride in having those 3 girls. They're healthy, they're intelligent, they're curious, they love exploring. So when I think about and look at my to-do list, that we talked about earlier today, on that, I have to have family, spirituality, all of these things. Those are very important and high on my list, right? And I think when you say how to balance it, putting things that are your priority on your priority list that's the first place to start.
Okay.
The next place to reflect is, you said earlier that, everyone has had a mentor or someone to support you along the way. It truly does take a village. I'm not doing this on my own. I have a very incredibly supportive partner, my husband. We have a nanny who comes to our home, even though I'm working from home. A lot of people, here, they're like, oh, you work from home. It must be so easy to, watch your kids and do everything. And I'm sure I could if I wanted the television or a device to be their babysitter. But, again, the priority I have for them is we found someone that really does care for them. We know this person very well, has become just, like part of our family. And so I think that balance, it's very important to have the support and the village that everyone talks about. It's impossible on your own.
Yeah, just goes back to that self-made man or woman analogy, and just the fact that really isn't a thing. And you're experiencing coaching and mentoring by being a mother, and I think that I am not yet a parent. I hope to be at some point soon. My fiance actually just got engaged last December, so we haven't had the wedding yet, but at some point hope to have kids and be a parent. And are you raising 3 little entrepreneur girls there?
I mentioned they're curious. They love exploring. I'll admit their ages are, the eldest is 5, the middle daughter is 3.5, and the youngest is 2. So,
wow.
We're working on things, but I think it's a joy to see them learn new things and to be able to be there, like you're saying, while they're understanding what I do, respecting my time, and also knowing that when I'm not with them, I do have boundaries. You asked about balance. I will close my laptop. I have dedicated time. If I'm with them, I do not have my phone out. I'm not, texting and messaging and working with clients when I'm in their presence. I have those boundaries and the respect for them so that I can give them the attention and the love that they need. And I think women can do it all. Other women entrepreneurs out there, or potential entrepreneurs, you can do it. But you do have to balance, I will say, for everything that you will say yes to, just remember, there will be times that you have to say no. And so for me, it has meant, okay, maybe if I am taking this new position of a new idea, and I'm always looking for other fun hobbies or things, and it can take time, right?
Yeah.
What I have justified of, okay, if I'm doing something that does bring some sort of income in, then my way of coping with, instead of taking time away from the children, I will use the money that my husband and I, we've earned, and say, okay, now I'm going to outsource this thing that I don't love doing. Maybe it's cleaning, or maybe it's something that would have taken my time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just swapping that out, that, okay, I'm getting this money and that's what I'm going to put it towards. So trying to do the yes, no, you got to say no to something. Well, I'm saying no to some housework
Yeah.
and saying yes to using that money towards that. So truly there's ways to make it work. And I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. And that really what motivates me to be successful is I want to obtain that financial freedom to, like you just said, use some monetary, wins that you've had to take some pressure off yourself and outsource some of those other things to give yourself more time. Because I think at the end of the day, time is what's most valuable to all of us. And in my opinion, money, that's great. But the reason I would like it is so I can get more time to do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, that's the greatest irony of all, that I want to do all the things that I'm doing and want to continue to do more to spend more time with the children.
Yeah.
Yet the time that I need to spend is now, right? While they're young, because in a few years, they'll be busy with school, with their own lives, right? They grow up in an instant. So it's a great irony. I don't have the answer to that yet, but I think that, use the efficiencies you have. COVID-19 supported that a lot. Going to the grocery store, no, I'm going to just do a order to come to our home, things like that. So,
yeah, certain things that make it a little easier on you. And as we wrap up this interview, Janan, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time away from your family to do this podcast and spend some time with me and help teach people listening, that you can do it, and there's certain types of things that you can do to build habits. And I think it's been really helpful to hear those types of advice. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. You really made me reflect on a lot of great memories, and I hope this is helpful to anyone out there listening.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Of course. And one more question. So let's bring it home here. So we're both pharmacists. We've had a lot to do with COVID-19 here in terms of the pandemic and pharmacies in the forefront of the news. And I have a burning question for you. Is there one myth that you would like to debunk about pharmacy specifically on the show here?
Sure. I'm kind of a definition of it, but you don't have to be counting pills to be a pharmacist. You can end up in a number of career paths. In fact, something I didn't mention, I'm working on a book with Alex Barker, the founder of the Happy PharmD, and the book is actually called Potential. I use that word a lot, but Potential, and it talks about over 50 different career paths. That's the part I'm working on. 50 paths that someone can have with a PharmD that you can end up doing with a PharmD, legitimate career avenues. So that's the biggest myth, that you're going to end up in a Walgreens store or a hospital. There are many things that people don't think about right away or know about, but there are a lot of options out there for pharmacists.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And any pharmacy students, any pharmacists listening, I know when I was in pharmacy school, it sometimes seems like you're kind of bottlenecked down. You have either retail or hospital or maybe industry or some type of, different, avenue there. But Janan touched on it perfectly there. You can do it, and there's a lot of avenues out there for you, and you just got to go get it. Get things done.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. That's right.
Janan, thank you so much for being on. Can't thank you enough. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon. Best of luck with the book.
Thanks. Bye.
See you later.